I went home to die. I went home to end my life. Despite my fear and reluctance to go in there, on the other side of all that pain and terror was my freedom. But it wasn't until I was completely without resources to save myself that he entered my story and showed me, it's not about what you can do. It's not about you climbing this mountain to find me. I'll climb down to find you.
I'm here with Nolan Malbeuf, motivational speaker, tattoo artist at Midnight Oil in Regina, Saskatchewan. Thank you so much, Nolan. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have a crazy story, but it's really a story of redemption and restoration and just the goodness of God chasing after us. So I'd like to get into your story a little bit, if that's cool with you. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey?
Like, as far as what?
As far as, because you've been married. How long have you and Natalie been married?
21 years.
21 years.
I think. Yeah, 21 years.
21 years. And you had this period of, you grew up in a Christian household.
Kind of, not necessarily. It wasn't. My childhood was a little chaotic. I was born into a home, I'm Métis, I'm Indigenous, and so we come from a heritage of being, having experienced residential school. My parents, my grandparents, my family. Most of them, if not all of them, being in those schools. And it's kind of a thing that even if you've never experienced a brick and mortar, like if you've never attended those schools physically, you still experience them through, secondhand by how you're treated or, because the family dynamic was robbed from us from those schools, our language, all that kind of stuff. And so when I was growing up, when I was small, my parents were actively in alcohol and drug use. My dad is a convicted drug dealer, and parties and things like that were pretty normal for me, witnessing that and, staying with relatives and things of that nature. And then my dad went to jail. My mom, sometimes the timeline gets a little weird, but my mom married another man, had my sister with him. My dad got out of jail. Again, the timeline might be a little weird, but then he got sober. My mom got sober, he got sober, he won her back. And then they just got really heavily involved in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And then I think my dad was rising through the ranks there and becoming a leader there. And then one year, an RCMP officer moved to our little village who just happened to be a pastor or a born-again Christian and started a little church in the basement. And, shortly after that, I found myself with my parents attending that church. And then, 2 or 3 years later, my parents became the pastors.
Wow.
So I didn't really grow up in a Christian home. We were raised Catholic, if anything.
Okay.
But yeah, my parents kind of fell into that. And, for some Indigenous people, when you think about anything that looks like organized religion, it's kind of like, oh, that's a white man's God, like Jesus is a white man's God, and that's, because residential school came in his name.
Right.
They came in the name of God to, oppress and abuse and suppress our people, but that wasn't God that they were representing. That was a tool, a man's tool. And so I was fortunate enough to witness my parents' pursuit of the one true living God. And I had experiences with the Holy Spirit when I was growing up. And but my my journey was pretty rough. I used to, do crazy stuff. I used to party lots. I used to fight. I used to get in trouble. I used to get kicked out on the regular. I was wild. I was a wild, wild dude, and I was angry, and I struggled a lot with the law, like all kinds of stuff. And then, when I was about 18, I kind of got involved with my parents' church again and got sober and started to pursue Jesus. I was leading a youth group in our church, and I was like traveling all over the north doing these like dramas and outreaches and stuff like that. And I got married to my wife at that time, and then one day it just all came crashing down. And I believe this thing that, prior to me meeting Natalie, I was in a pretty serious relationship. I don't talk about it much, but I was in a very serious relationship, and I really loved this girl, and I loved her family. They embraced me. I would stay there often, and we were really close. And by the time Natalie entered my story, I was kind of having struggles with this woman. And I saw Natty, and I was like, wow, man, I have to have that, And so I kind of just dropped everything, and I started to pursue her. And there was this teaching at that time that Jesus said, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, you are a new creation. Old things have passed away, all things are new. And so that's a very tricky scripture, because it can be misinterpreted almost as if in an instant like this, my whole past is erased and I'm new. And all the stuff prior to this point means nothing. It never happened, it never existed. But in my experience, it's not what that scripture means. In my experience, Jesus uses your, excuse me.
Do you want some water, Nolan? Should we grab Nolan?
I'm okay. I've got
You're
coffee
okay?
here. Yeah. But our past, like, it doesn't just vanish. There's not just some big magic carpet you get to sweep that under. If anything, I've learned that, as we allow the Lord to enter our story, He reconciles our past. And as He begins to heal us and speak truth and all that stuff, He actually builds a trust in us. He takes those things where we've fallen short. Takes those things that, we might see as failure, and He flips it and He uses it as a way for us to help other people.
He redeems our
He
story.
redeems it, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like some people have a testimony where they're freed of certain things, but for the most part, on this side of eternity, God takes us through a process.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not always just you're changed in an instant.
No.
Some people do experience a transformation, freedom from things, but through the daily pursuit of God, we are renewed and we
your
grow.
Your past is there. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't disappear.
Yeah, we still
like, it
need
doesn't
healing.
doesn't like, oh, I'm new creation. Okay, so
Right.
all this circumstance, everything that I'm living in right now, is gone.
Right.
And I tried to do that. I inherited that. I walked in that. I got married, and then I was happily married for 2 years, and then I bumped into this lady, and all these emotions that I thought were gone, that I'm a new creation, all this stuff vanished. It's under the rug. There was a tragedy in their family, and I went to the funeral, and all these emotions hit me so hard that it rocked even the core of my belief system, because I thought, what is this? Like, this is, I'm new. Old things are passed away, right? But I have this log inside my chest. What does this mean? And so if we go from that moment, that's a landmark moment, because I struggled for the next 18 years, 20 years with drugs and alcohol, reeling from this event that happened in my life. Not only that, I was confused because I felt like, when you're raised in a place of shame, and I'm not saying like in my home, but just in this bubble, in this community, with these people who have for generation upon generation upon generation upon generation upon generation, generations before Canada was ever Canada, generation that attended these schools that told you that you're not even human, that you're worthless, that your culture is being robbed from you, treated in a shameful way, then that's how you like interact with life. That's how you interact with this world. And I just like, I just couldn't like, I couldn't interact with God. I thought that he was ashamed of me, and that it was up to me to, like in the Old Testament, before the Israelites wouldn't like meet with God, they'd change their garments, they'd cleanse themselves, they would consecrate themselves, and every time I tried to do that, I just felt like I just couldn't get there, So 20 years, right, of chaos and danger and loss and grief, and there was good times in there, but it was mostly just hopelessness, And then one day, when I was at the end of my rope, and I made a decision just to be done with this life and stop hurting everybody, which is kind of ridiculous because me dying would be the ultimate job, right? I encountered Jesus. He came into this camper I was in, and in a simple phrase, he said, "Get up." He reinstated me, gave me value, and not only showed me that I was worth saving, but he showed me this tremendous compassion that he had for me, that he was willing to leave his mountain and find me.
Wow.
So I have been reeling in a different way. In the last 3 years, I have been on this journey of trying to just interact with my Maker as much as I can, because I feel that my heart no longer belongs to me, So, just messed up in a different way. And I have been drug and alcohol free for over 3 years. I recently quit smoking. I don't know when the last time there has not been a substance in my body. So it's been an incredible journey.
Absolutely. What you said about, your past doesn't just disappear, and generations and generations and generations before. I've learned recently that not only, you experience something like that, and culturally, it shapes your worldview, it shapes your mindset, and then when these things are being presented to you as truth, is you don't walk in authority, you walk in victimhood, or you walk in woundedness, but the trauma of even past generations actually stay in your brainstem. Like that trauma is still in you physically. And so you need to go through a healing process, and which is something only God can do.
Right.
And so can you help me out with the timeline a little bit here? Because you married Natalie, and it was good. And then what happened when you said you had kind of decided to give it all up? Was it kind of years of battling?
Yeah. So like, my wife and I separated several times, 3 or 4 times over the years, because I was struggling with addiction. I would disappear. I wouldn't, I missed Christmas one year. I was super unreliable. I would just like hide myself away. And the last time this happened, we split again. And so like we tried to end it, we tried to fix it, we tried to end it, we tried to fix it, we tried to end it, we tried to fix it. And it was just this cycle. And so if you're familiar in any way with addiction, it's like, you do something horrible, and then you kind of snap out of it, and you say, I'll never do that again. And then you do it again. And then you do something horrible, and then you dig a hole. You pull yourself out of the hole, try one more time, and you swear on everything holy you'll never do that again. And then the first opportunity you have, you do it again.
It's like the cycle.
It's just a cycle. And it's not like, well, something bad happened. No, I think part of where I get my freedom from is that encounter with Jesus, but it's almost like my perspective shifted, because I think I was living as a victim my entire life. And in that moment, in that camper, when the Lord spoke to me, it was like my mindset shifted from a victim to more assertive, to figure out why. And so I started talking to a lady, and we kind of unearthed some stuff that kind of stemmed from my childhood. See, what I learned is that little Nolan, who I couldn't even utter that phrase for the first maybe year of my healing journey, little Nolan, I would just sit and weep and cry. I couldn't talk about him. We couldn't bring that up, and I didn't want to be, disloyal or a traitor to my family, or blame anybody or hurt anybody. Better just to lock him away, But I realized that, Big Nolan inherited some coping mechanisms from little Nolan, and I was functioning out of that. And then I also learned that
protecting
just
yourself.
Don't trust anybody, because they're all going to hurt you. And so you take that, you don't even know you have that promise deep down inside of you, and then you realize when you recognize that, then you say, wow, I have not been vulnerable with anybody. My wife, my kids, my parents can only get so close. You'll never, ever penetrate this wall, because I will never be hurt again,
Yeah.
And so, like, part of what I learned is that part of the cycle that I was in was, like I said, there was good times, but it was the good times that made me feel the most vulnerable. It all came down to protecting myself and not wanting to be vulnerable. So when I started to experience some success, it would scare me, because I was okay with failure. I was okay with being a mess up. It had become my normal.
It was familiar.
Very familiar. And it was safe, right? So as soon as I started to build and have some success, I would be like, oh man, like if I start looking forward to this, if I start being happy, if I start having hope, then when I mess it up, it's going to hurt.
Right.
When it all comes tumbling down, it's going to, like, I'll be so devastated. So then I recognized through, the help of a counselor that I would self-sabotage as a way to protect myself, to control the time and place of when things would go wrong, so that I wouldn't be surprised down the road. And I was convinced that I had this black cloud over me. I couldn't see the sun. I couldn't get away from under it. And it was like a cloud of doom following me. So I just got used to just being in neutral, being cool with being a zombie, and never high, never low, just zombie. Right. So,
like that expectation of hope and transformation and just a different kind of lifestyle. Like you said, if you were on a high, the low would feel that much lower. Does that track? Yeah. Okay. But
I just never, like, hope is a swear word. There's no hope, because every time you do good, you burn it down. And then you do everything you have in your power to try to do good again, and then you burn it down. And then it just repeats.
Yeah. does it make sense to feel like, because in my own journey and what I'm kind of learning, and through talking to other people through this, is like unconsciously you make agreements with things based on your past experiences, and it's like, and then those experiences become an identity. It's like, I failed at this, I'm a failure. Like, I was told I was stupid my whole life, I'm stupid. And then to get out of that belief, like, you've made this agreement about yourself, but it's actually an agreement with a lie. And so, because it's so embedded in your belief system, in your mind, to actually accept truth and to break that agreement is really hard.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It was really difficult to see, like, when I first went to get counseling, it was at Harvest City with Deb LaShawn. She actually is so, like, pivotal in my healing. I had been to a plethora of counselors. I have tried to be sober many, many times. I still had a fight. I was just getting to a place where I couldn't see the light, and I was just tired. I was tired of lying. I was tired of, just worn down. And so I went to go see Deb, and she really, like, shook me the very first time I met with her, because, like I said, I had been to counselors before. So I went in there, I gave her some context. I talked about my struggles with addiction and stuff like that. And she just said matter-of-factly, like, well, thanks for the context and thank you for bringing me up to speed, but I'm not really interested in that.
Whoa.
And then I was thinking, like, man, this is weird. Like, this is new. The people always want to talk to me about, like, And then she just said, like, really gently and politely said, why don't you tell me about your childhood? And then when she said that, it was like the wind left me. I went, and that was the first time in my life that I ever realized how off limits that place was for me.
Wow.
And, like, if you consider, the majority of my adult life was geared towards encouraging, inspiring, and supporting young people. I volunteered at Metro Kids in Los Angeles when I was like 21 years old, moved to LA for 3 or 4 months, worked with inner city kids, did all that. And then like I said, I had that youth group. I became a teacher, and then I taught for 15 years. And, like, I had never, ever once considered my own trauma. Not once had I ever considered that until that conversation with Deb. And then the next two, I think at the beginning we were meeting every week, and the first 2 sessions I had with her, I sat on a couch and just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. She'd just sit there and let me cry.
Wow.
Because I couldn't. It was like, I use this analogy that, like, my life is a hallway, one long corridor, and every year of my life or significant event is like those old saloon doors that you walk through, and they're just spring-loaded and they can open and close really easily and just walk in and out. But then at the end of the hallway, there's a tiny little door like Alice in Wonderland, way too small, covered in chains and padlocks, do not enter. And little Nolan lived in there. And like I said, for the first time in my life, I realized that was way off limits. But, despite my fear and reluctance to go in there, on the other side of all that pain and terror was my freedom.
Wow.
And we literally, like, invited the Holy Spirit to reveal things, because I had taken a position of, how could you, God? Where were you, God? Why didn't you, God?
Yeah.
And then he revealed that, Nolan, I was with you. I was with you. I was preserving you. I was,
Wow.
And then when you see it from that light, it was almost like, stuff breaks off of you. These opinions that you have, like you said, like our emotions and even our memory are not true sometimes. They're not a foundation that we can build on. They fluctuate. but the truth is the truth, right? And so when I started to see those things and experience those things, and like at the beginning of my sober journey, like the Lord was really like almost like step in step, hand in hand with me, like very tangible experiences at the beginning, saying like, man, I'm gentle, I'm kind, and you can trust me. I'm with you. Hold fast to me. You don't need that stuff no more. You hold fast to me. And just I would get these like visions and thoughts like on a weekly basis of him just like saying, man, I'm with you. I'm with you. And like I've had some pretty rank experiences that I'll never forget probably for the rest of my life. So
Encountering God.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of them I was driving.
Uh-oh.
And then I would just like, he would show me something and then I just start sobbing. Like I cried for a year. I still cry daily, regularly. If I don't cry in a day, it's odd. But like for a year, I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And my parents are in recovery. So they understood, like my dad told me, my boy, he said, you know, the first year you'll think you're crazy. The first year will be the hardest because what happens is you suppress all your emotions. You're numb, right? And if I wasn't drunk, then I was hungover. If I wasn't high, then I was hungover, recovering. And so it was like my spirit went to sleep. It was dormant. And then when I quit and I started doing this counseling, it was like the emotions were a lake that had been dammed up. And we just took some dynamite and blew up that dam, and then all this stuff started coming out of me that I couldn't handle, I couldn't control. Like I would like just cry spontaneously, like in the shop, just say, hey, excuse me, I just gotta, then I'd go and then just breathe through it. Like I learned not to fight it no more. And my dad coached me. Like I would call him, Dad, like I don't know what's going on with me. This is how I feel. He's like, my boy, it's okay. Just let it go. It's okay. It's okay. And then I would just like sob quietly and uncontrollably. And then I'd wipe my tears and then I'd go back. And then it just got to this thing where I didn't need to call no more. I would just sit in the moment and just let it happen. And then carry on, you know? And, I've been tough on the exterior for a large majority of my life. And I've experienced a lot of devastating things. Almost died, I don't know how many times. A lot, violent events. And it's actually the kindness of God that like infiltrates all my defenses. His goodness towards me that just breaks me down. You know, if he came at me in aggression, then aggression would be how I respond. But he showed his great compassion and kindness towards me, and I can't recover. I just can't recover from that. He has, like I said a few weeks ago, he's won me over. So that's where I'm at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
Because you were like in this trailer up north.
Yeah.
And were you pursuing God?
No, I went home to die. I went home to end my life.
And so, did you cry out to God, or did God just?
I think I did. Okay. So like I said, I tried many times to like go to church. I'd get sober. I would be resentful towards my sobriety. I'd wonder why can't I just have a beer? I'm a man. I take care of my family. Yeah, provide for my family. You know, if that's one thing I did good in like the whole time, I actually did provide for them. And then I'd go to church and I would be like awesome for like, you know, the first month. It was like I put $10 in my truck, and for the first few clicks, man, we're rolling. But as soon as it started to sputter, we're in the ditch again, and that's just how it was. Like I tried to follow God. I couldn't get out from behind these lenses that I was wearing of this shame and this devalued and this regret. I just couldn't perceive him because I was just seeing through this mess, that I had. Part of it was my choices, part of it was things that I had experienced, and this, like you said, worldview that I had that, when we experience trauma, when we experience grief, tremendous grief over and over again, when we experience loss, when we live as addicts and we exist in a state of hopelessness, like that's how we interact with our world. That's how our brain responds to information that we're taking in, and that's how we perceive our maker. And I tried to get there many, many times, but it wasn't until I was completely without resources to save myself that he entered my story and showed me, it's not about what you can do. It's not about you climbing this mountain to find me. I'll climb down to find you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, because talking about, culturally, and talking about, these past generations of trauma.
Yeah.
What were some of those mindset shifts, or like what were some of those truths when you encountered God and he started to heal those areas and position you as a son? Like what did that look like? Or, what was God speaking to you at that time that helped kind of heal you?
Well, I think the biggest thing was my value. Like I didn't know how to be loved. I just didn't know how. I have loving parents. I really do. Like I really, really love my parents. I held them in very high esteem, and sometimes I am reluctant to talk about the past because I don't want anybody to perceive them in that way. Like they're very, very important to me, and I have needed them. Like I'm getting emotional. I have needed them a lot, and they have been there for me, But I didn't know how to be loved, and I didn't know how to trust. And so for the first year, I don't know why, but it's just what I did. For most of my life, the morning was the enemy. I never, ever looked forward to the morning because I was either drunk or high, and I just did not want the morning to come. I had a job, I just did not. I hated the morning. I'd sleep and miss the morning and wake up in the afternoon. I hated the morning. But when I got sober, I learned to cherish the morning because you're alone, it's quiet. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional. But the first year of my sobriety, I was living in the basement because my wife had kicked me out. I had no options. Like I went to die, and I didn't die. So then I came back to Regina. I begged my wife to let me stay in the basement so that I could find another place. And at the beginning, it was hard to be there because there was so much residual pain in the walls of our home were stained with residual pain, the memories, the experiences, right? But every morning in the dark, I'd be in the basement with a little lamp, and I would listen to the same music. I would search up beautiful, spontaneous worship, and this song would come up, and I listened to that song every day, first thing in the morning. And I would read Psalm 139 every day, first thing in the morning. And Psalm 139 is a beautiful psalm because it talks about a creator who is so infinitely aware of his creation, and how, if once I thought I was a mistake, how could I ever think that again when you read this thing that he knit you together in your mother's womb, that he is familiar with all the fabric that is you, that he's numbered the days of your life, and that you cannot escape his spirit, and that before a word's on your tongue, he knows it completely. He knows when I sit, when I rise. He's laid his hand upon me, all that crazy stuff. And every day I read that, and I started to encounter him through different ways, if it's a thought or if it's a voice, and I think he was just like building this trust in me. At the same time, I'm in my home with my children who have hurt, who have been abandoned and neglected. They're seeing me. I'm being predictable. I'm, not forcing them to do anything. I apologized so many times at the beginning that I just realized one day I thought, don't apologize no more, because I don't want them to feel pressure to forgive.
Mm.
And then as time went by, me being there, being predictable, one day my oldest daughter came storming down the stairs. I was washing the dishes or something in the kitchen, and I heard her rumbling and crying, bawling, and I'm like, yo, my baby, are you okay? What happened? She threw her arms around me and she said, Daddy, I forgive you.
Wow.
You know? And I said, stop! Because I was just like, I cried already. Please stop. You know? And then same thing. My second oldest, maybe a couple weeks, a month later, same.
Mm.
And so the first year was a very powerful year where the Lord was just, like I said, walking with me hand in hand. And very early on, He gave me a word. I was at is it okay if I just keep talking?
Of course, yeah.
I was at a men's group meeting one morning, and they're early, man. They're like 6:30 in the morning. And I think it was winter. Dave was just going off, like he was leading the group, and he was just going off, man, on some like powerful Jesus stuff. Like he does, very rarely preaches there. We just study, but he was just going off, and it was just like hitting me like arrows in my heart. I jump in my truck after, I'm driving down the road, and I was like, whoa, man, I didn't cry this morning. Man, I'm getting better. I was like, whoa, I'm getting better. And so I'm heading north on Winnipeg, and at 4th Avenue or Ross, I can't remember which one it is there's a Tim Hortons, okay? I don't know if you guys know where that is, but it's dark. In my memory, it's dark. I get to the red light, I'm like, man, I'm getting better, Lord, I'm getting better. And then all of a sudden, there's like a frame in my mind, and my mind goes, shh. I'm at a red light, it's dark, it's like 7:30 in the morning, winter time. And the Lord takes me to this place where I see little Nolan in a pitch black room, scared. And I immediately know that place. I know where I am. I know what's happening. And I begin to bawl at a red light. See, when I was small, there'd be parties at my house, or they'd have gas or whatever, and I would be in a dark room by myself, and my sister's room was next to mine, so we'd knock on the wall to comfort each other, If I was scared, I was younger than her, so she was kind of my guardian. And I'd have a hard time sleeping. I'd be scared, and sometimes people would open the door and see me there and then shut the door, so it was just like not a very safe place for a little boy to feel safe. And my sister would fall asleep, so she wouldn't knock back. And I'd be scared. And I had this little G.I. Joe, a little man, and I would hold my man like this, and he'd like make me feel safe, and I would just rock with my little man, and I'd fall asleep. So I'm sitting at this red light, can't see, bawling, and I'm watching this little boy, little Nolan, clutch this thing. All of a sudden, the Lord says to me, you don't need that man no more. And then I saw myself holding like this ball of light with like rays shooting out from the openings in my fingers. And He said, you hold fast to me. You hold fast to me. And so I was already familiar with that word, because the Lord was already showing me the meaning of that word. It's a sailor's term, where if you ever find yourself in the midst of a storm, the kind that will end your life, the sailors will use this term, hold fast. And what that means is it's like you hold the ropes of the sails with everything you have, absolutely everything you have, because if you don't, you're dead. And that's what He said, hold fast to me. And I said, okay.
Get out of here, G.I. Joe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, because when we met you and Natalie, you guys are on the other side of this.
Yeah.
So, are you okay to talk about that? Like, at what point?
We can talk about whatever you want.
At what point, like, what did that look like, the reconciling again with Natalie? And
Well, she didn't want that. She was done. She gave me this analogy one time of how being in a relationship with me was like being with somebody who is your best friend and then comes up to you and for whatever reason that day just punches you in the face and then says, I'm sorry. And then the next day you see your best friend and they come up and they punch you in the face again. And then they say, I'm sorry. And then the next day, same.
Yeah.
And next day, and next day. I never punched my wife in the face. Let's make that clear right now. But I did hurt her in a multitude of different ways.
Yeah.
When it comes to a marriage, I did probably everything you can do to destroy a marriage. We back?
Are we back? Sorry to interrupt your train of thought.
No, that's
there.
okay.
Do you remember where?
Yeah. Are we golden from where we ended?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, needless to say, it was done. In her mind, it was done. You have to remember, man, 18 years is a long time to struggle. And the people that were once supportive around her were slowly turning. Hey, like, that's enough. Natalie, that's enough. You can't, this guy's not changing, this guy's not learning. And at the beginning, it was like Natty, a very good analogy for her and I would be like, I'm a raging fire. I'm emotional, very emotional. The Lord's dealing with me in that, but like, I can fall into one thing and I can fall into it 100. But the problem with that is like, big flame, quick burn, and then I am depleted and then I'm like, well, let's do the next thing. Whereas Natty is like a slow burning fire, steady, warm, predictable, safe. And she just knew that the Lord is, I know what the Lord would have me do until the end, where she was like, this is done, this is over, my heart is dead towards you, and like I really, really, really had to beg to stay in the basement. And every time I saw her, it was hostile. I could, no talking, but I could just feel this like, don't you dare talk to me, don't you dare talk to me, like that kind of, And so while that was happening in our home, I was in the basement being ministered to and put back together by the Lord. I never tried anything with her. I never, we were just there existing. And then as time went by, I started to let her know that I it's different. Something's different. Different, but like nobody believes that. You've said that before. You've felt this way before. I've seen you do this song and dance before, but something was different. I in an instant like that, something fell off me. I didn't know when I had that camper encounter. I didn't know what happened. I didn't know the depth of what happened, but it was almost like, a Paul on the Damascus Road type thing, or like a Lazarus being, not to be overly dramatic, but it did that for me. It was like I stepped out of that tomb and I left my grave clothes behind.
Wow.
I have not once ever considered, man, I should use drugs, I should drink, I have never, not once since that time, thought that my life was too unmanageable, that I couldn't, that I needed that stuff. So something happened. Obviously, I have to stand guard at my heart and at my mind because, man, I've been in the world a long time. And so there'll be situations where I'll be like, man, a rye and ginger would be so sweet right now. And then I'll go, wait, we don't do that no more, bro. And then it'd be like, oh yeah, and we're good. But to get back to Natty, she wasn't having it. And then one day, like she should be telling you this, but her testimony is, people look at me and they're like, man, you got to hear that guy. But like mine pales in comparison to Natty. It really does. And she's definitely one of my heroes. But anyway, she was in the garage. We had set up a little gym in there. And she's riding the bike and she's angry why I'm there. And she doesn't want to, I thought this was done. I can't let this guy in again. And just to be punched in the face again, And then she said she heard the Lord correct her. He said, what are you doing? Everything you've been praying for, you have it right now. Everything you've been praying for, you have it right now.
Wow.
And it just did something to her. And so we reconciled, and, I don't know if we've ever had such a good relationship. Obviously there were some real, real triggers at the beginning, but we've learned to heal, and we've learned to, I don't know, just be partners,
Absolutely.
And so I think when we go back in our conversation and we think about how that new creation thing can be misunderstood, and it's such a destructive way to look at that, the past is important. The Lord builds a trust in you when he uses your past, when you look back and you see the state you were in and what he reconciled, what he redeemed, what he's reclaimed. It's so important, and it's so powerful that even our love for each other is enriched. It's like a gold, when you find gold in the ground, it doesn't look precious, it doesn't look beautiful, it's full of impurities. But through the refinement and the pressure, that true treasure of it starts to be unearthed and starts to be revealed. And that's us. That's us, That's what the Lord takes us through, that process. What a shame it would be to just be like, okay, I was this way, now I'm this way, and the past is all under this rug. We don't look at that no more. And we exist like that. And we don't have this depth of healing that, the Lord will use those things to bring you close to him, because he brings you to a place where you say, okay, Lord, I know I've been struggling with this, God, and I know that this has been a part of my life for so long, and I know that my heart is so damaged, and I have all this fear, and I have all this, this resentment and pain and bitterness, but here you go. Take it. Take it, Lord. And then he takes that and he starts to take your brokenness and put it back together and show his goodness towards you and his intention and his plans for you. And he whispers that still small voice that, hey, you'll be okay. I'm with you. I'm with you. And then he hands that back to you and you go, wow, look at what you've done. And God, I trust you. I trust you. Take this, Lord. Would you take this, God?
That juxtaposition of that brokenness, and then his greatness and the victory is so...
His faithfulness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And his compassion. I just spoke on compassion on Sunday at church. And it's such a powerful thing, because I didn't even really understand it. But between first and second service, I looked it up, and it means to feel so strongly, to be moved by someone's situation, that you are so deeply moved that you're provoked to do something.
Wow.
And we see that in Scripture time and time and time again. Like when Lazarus dies, it doesn't say that he's weeping because Lazarus is dead. He's weeping because of the people, their situation, their reaction to this loss, this perceived loss, or people that are outcasted, or people that are dying or sick. Like Jesus is just so moved. He's moved by faith. He's just like he's so full of, like if you read Mark, like Mark is a gritty book, and it really like talks about it shows his emotion, or even if you consider like the Israelites in Egypt, they were slaves and they were being ill-treated, and then it literally says in the Bible that God became concerned with them. He heard their cries, and then boom, in comes Moses. He moves, you know what I mean? And then through that book, he just shows his providence, he shows his power, he shows his might, and he shows his compassion for his people, that he meets every need and then some, So
That's so good. That's so good. So what would you say to someone who cannot get over their shame and their guilt, or doesn't see victory and as even a possibility, cannot even consider the concept of healing?
I don't know. All I know is that I can't save myself. I just can't. All my strategies and plans end in failure or destruction. But there's one who is able to rescue. And to get back to this camper story, so just to paint a clearer picture, I went home to Meadow Lake. It's just a little south of where I'm from. Went to my sister's house. She had a camper on her front yard. It's in the reserve. I had so much drugs. I had lots of alcohol, and I had a plan. And for 10 days, I sent it. And there was times in there where I feel like I was literally fighting for my life in fear because I had ingested too much or whatever it was. And I had excommunicated everybody, and I couldn't look at pictures of my kids. I was done. I was absolutely done. And you have to understand that I was already very familiar and well acquainted with hopelessness. But this level, I have never been before. So my younger sister, she's actually visiting me right now, was like my party, like my mate, like my wingman, like bros, right? And she was very concerned about me because she had never, ever seen me in that place. And I just remember one night I was sitting on the edge of the bed in the camper. I don't know what time it was. I don't even know how coherent I was, but I was crying in this camper of pain and shame and hopelessness. And I said, "Will you help me? Can you help me? Please help me."
Wow.
And then I don't know if it was the next day or when it was, but I was half asleep, sick in my soul and in my body. And I heard this voice. It said, "Get up!" Like that. Assertive. Not like I was in trouble, but assertive. And I thought, who's talking to me? I looked around. Nobody's in there. And it said, "Get up! Your emotions are not your wife and kids' responsibility. Now get up!" And for whatever reason, I rose. And I knew that I had to go to my mom's. I dumped everything. See, like I wasn't at the end. I had thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. I had all this plans. I had all this stuff. I wasn't without resources. And I dumped everything. I went straight to my mom's, who I hadn't seen in 10 days. They were worried sick about me. I walked in the front door, a broken man, a shadow of a man. And my mom was standing upstairs. There's a flight of stairs. And she said, "My son!" She said, "A righteous man falls 7 times, and the Lord builds him up again."
Wow.
And I just bawled and bawled and bawled, and that's where it started. So, yeah, the Lord just started to piece me back together. But first he showed me that I was valuable, and he showed me his compassion. He handed me back my humanity, and he said, "Now let's go. Let's go. Get up. Let's go." Okay.
That is so powerful, Nolan. Thank you for sharing that with us. I feel like there's so much in there, like we don't have to go any deeper, but
Yeah.
hearing your story of redemption and victory
Yeah.
is so encouraging and inspiring. And I feel like for people who are in that space,
Yeah.
it's just a story of hope,
Yeah.
of God's goodness.
Well, let me say one more thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the quicker we realize that it's out of our hands, that there's nothing we can do like to save ourselves. Later on, like I still continued to go to counseling, and one day I was driving again, and I pulled in to Tim Hortons, same Tim Hortons on Ross, on Winnipeg, same one, I go there very frequently. I pulled in, and then I said to myself, man, I'm heading to this counseling session. What am I going to talk about today? I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. And the tears started pouring, so I had to pull over because I don't want to die. And I said, man, I have no idea what I'm doing, God. I have no idea. I feel just like a little boy. I don't know what I'm doing. And then I heard this little voice inside me say, I love that about you. I love that about you.
Wow.
See, we're not called to know everything. We're not called to steer the boat. The most precious thing we could ever offer God is just say, God, here I am. Here I am. Like we see time and time again in the Bible, there's a man with leprosy. He has leprosy, and he says to Jesus, if you are willing, would you heal me? And Jesus says, I'm willing. He's willing. But I mean, for me, I think I had to go to that level of hopelessness. I had to go that far to the edge of my life to fully grasp his love for me. And that I have no way to explain away this experience that I had, and no way to like deny the depth of what he's done, because I used to think like I got to clean myself up, I got to be sober, I got to tidy up my life so that I can go to church and present myself to this God who's up there, likely mad at me, probably frustrated that I'm knocking on his door again, that I need help again, and he's like, oh, you again? Like what are we going to do here? I'll help you, and then you're just going to waste my help and I'll do all this. And he blew that out of the water, changed my mind, because when I was in this drug-filled, alcohol-filled, hopeless place, a dungeon of hopelessness, he entered that place. It wasn't too sinful for him.
Yeah.
He came in there and he pulled me out and said, get up.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know. It's just my heart's cry would be to encounter him, to let go of the structures and the strategies and the logic, and just say, Lord, would you meet me? If you're willing, God, would you help me? Yeah. Help me, please. Yeah. And I've learned that he's faithful.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest lies is that, people think God is looking down at them like you did bad,
upset. Yeah.
As a kind of, you're going to get disciplined now.
Yeah.
But really, he looks at us with so much kindness and, like you said, compassion. Yeah. And he's not looking at us with disappointment. He's looking at us with hope and like, come on this adventure. I see your potential. I don't see what you did, your mistakes of what you did in the past. I see your potential of who you will be.
Yeah.
And like we've been talking in church, God sees us as righteous.
Yeah. And you know what I found interesting? One thing that I've been just kind of mulling over is like, Jesus didn't go to the cross so that we'd be clean enough for him to love us. He loved us already.
Yeah.
He loved us already.
Yeah.
He said, For the joy set before him, he is willing to endure the cross and despising its shame. You know, that he gave his life as a ransom for many. And we have this thing like, oh man, I come to the cross, I get clean, and Jesus will love me. Bro, he loves you already. That's why he gave everything for you. He doesn't, want these robots following him. He wants his family.
Yeah.
We're not abhorrent to him. He looks at us with great compassion. When we struggle, he's concerned with us.
Yeah.
When we're in bondage to these things, when we're in literal slavery, he's concerned with us.
Yeah.
He's moved by that. He wants to encounter us,
Right.
And I don't know why. I don't know the reason behind why it takes so long or when it happens the way it happens. But the Bible also talks about that we can perceive him as being slow, that he works very slow. But in that same scripture, I can't remember where it is, we can perceive him as being slow, but he's giving us opportunity to repent, or he's building that climactic moment of encounter where we're just like, whoa, and that's how I feel. That's what I feel like happened to me. Is it's just like, no, I pray, just Lord, strengthen my hands so that I can hold on to you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That he's even the strength that I use to grip him with, that he's everything.
Yeah.
And all I have to do is just say, Lord, here's my heart. Take it,
Yeah.
So.
I think so often we think God is against us. Why did you do this to me? Why are you allowing me to? But God is for us. God chases after us. He wants to know us and for us to know him and be in relationship with
his
us.
Family, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nolan.
Yeah.
So good, so powerful. I
Awesome.
appreciate you taking the time. And how can people find you if they want to find you or reach out to you?
If you want tattoos, my Instagram is at Malbeuf, at Malbeuf. I travel, I go all over doing that. For speaking, you can reach me at my email, which is Malbeuf again, Malbeuf. You could probably just put this on.
Yeah,
there,
I'll put it on there.
And at gmail.com.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Appreciate you,
No
Nolan.
problem.
Cool. Sweet.